Hello and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar. This is a webinar for the International Media Association for Peace. And I'm Peggy Yujiri, the IMAP coordinator for the Rocky Mountain region and also the executive director for UPF in Colorado. IMAP is an association of the Universal Peace Federation, and it represents a global network of journalists who advocate for socially responsible and moral media and are committed to working together for the achievement of a world of peace based on the principles of interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values. UPF, an NGO in general consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, was founded by Dr. Sun Myung Moon and Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon, and who have dedicated their lives to fostering global harmony and understanding and tirelessly advocating for peace and reconciliation. One big focus of IMAP and our webinars has been on the issue of religious freedom. And today we're going to be examining the crisis in Myanmar with the Burmese Rohingya and the virtual genocide of that people and the intense persecution and violence that has been unleashed against them. This is a topic that is not discussed in the media as much as it should be, and we really want to bring more attention to this. Our first guest is located in London and could not join us at this time, so we pre-recorded his comments earlier today, and we will show them now. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Tun Khin. Tun Khin is a Rohingya Muslim. He was born and brought up in Rakhine State in Burma. He is the co-founder and the president of the Burmese Rohingya Organization UK, which has been a leading voice for Rohingya people around the world. Tun Khin has briefed officials on the genocide committed against Rohingya populations at the British Parliament, Swedish Parliament, Morocco Parliament, Canada Parliament, European Union Parliament, the US Senate, the US Congress, and the State Department, the UN Indigenous Forum in New York, and the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva. He has been a featured speaker on Rohingya rights for the BBC, Sky News, CNN, Al Jazeera, and many other media outlets. Tun Khin filed a universal jurisdiction case in Argentina against Myanmar military and civilian government for genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Khin. Thank you and welcome, and thank you for taking time to share with us in this program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be in London and your personal experience with the Burmese genocide?
I'm a Rohingya. I was born and brought up in western part of Burma, Rakhine State. You know, when I was in Rakhine State until my age of 17, I have witnessed how Rohingya people are facing persecution very systematically. You know, Burmese military destroying our community with intention. That's what I have seen because I couldn't move from one village to another, one town to another. For example, from New York to Washington, if we need to go, we need to get a pass. And Rohingya are not allowed to get married, and Rohingya lands being confiscated by the military and denying our citizenship. Even though my grandfather was a parliamentary secretary, I was not recognized as a citizen. So until my age was 17, I passed through that, and then I fled with a bribe, and I left from the country, and I'm in UK for more than 23 years now, and I couldn't study in Burma, my university, my professional studies. I finished my studies in London. So that's how I have passed through. I was not recognized even though my father, my grandfather was citizen. I was not recognized as a citizen. So uh, I was stateless in our own state. That's how I've been grown up. And finally, I ended up in UK, finished my studies, and So we want to highlight internationally about what's happening to the Rohingya people. That's why we founded in 2005 Burmese Rohingya Organization UK to highlight what's about Rohingya situation.
Can you tell us what the situation is right now in Burma, in Myanmar for the
As,
Rohingya?
as a whole, Burma situation is really bad. Burmese military coup power 2021, and Rohingyas are facing genocide, and other minorities are facing war crimes against humanity by this Burmese military. Since 1962 military coup power, Rohingya are facing genocide and other minorities are facing serious human rights violation as a whole Burma. Today, since 2021 to until today, the worst humanitarian crisis and human rights violation the people are facing. On top of that, Rohingya people are facing genocide. 100,000 Rohingya people in Sitwe IDP camp, humanitarian aid being blocked. They're not allowed to move from one place to another, and they were like a kind of the Burmese military is using them for conscription, you know. Uh, so it's really bad. And Rohingya were systematically destroyed by this Burmese military. In 2017, thousands of Rohingya people were killed, thousands of Rohingya women were raped by this Burmese military. And until today, we have not seen that any practical action by taken international community. This is the situation now we are seeing as a whole Burma. And other minorities, Christian, Rohingyas are Muslim, Christian from Kashmir state, they are facing crimes. They are facing crimes against humanity by the Burmese military, and they are burning down whoever opposing the coup. They are burning down their villages, and they are arresting people with false allegation. And there are more than 10,000 political prisoners in Burma right now. Political prisoners.
About how much, what would you say would be the population for the Rohingya community in Burma right
Rohingya
now
pop-
or
right.
worldwide?
So total Rohingya population is about uh, 3.5 million. Currently, there are only 400,000 Rohingya left in Burma. 400,000. So 3.1 million Rohingya fled from Burma because 1962 military coup power. Since 1962, he's taken off our ethnic identity, ethnic rights, and then our citizenship rights, and then impose against us restriction of movement, marriage, and education, and then they force Rohingya to flee from the country. So currently, 400,000 Rohingyas are there.
And where are the majority of the people who have fled?
1.2 million or 1.3 million Rohingya population in Bangladesh right now, which is the world's largest refugee camp. And 2017, more than 800,000 Rohingya fled from Rakhine State to Bangladesh. So Bangladesh is the world's largest refugee camp in the world.
And I've read that the situation in Bangladesh is pretty dire for the refugees as well.
Rohingya refugees are not a good condition. Humanitarian aid being cut by the U.S. government and others. That is really affecting to the Rohingya people. And many people, young people who work with NGOs, their work being cut off. And many Rohingyas are, facing hopeless when they were genocide survivors. They fled from the country. Now they're looking at other ways to flee by boat, and many boats been disappeared, and many boats were, sent while they passing through, Bay of Bengal to flee to other countries like Thailand, Malaysia, and Indonesia. Many Rohingya flee by boat. You may see in the news. So this is what's happening right now.
I see. That's very concerning. Can you tell us some of the international efforts that are being made now to address this crisis?
To be honest, international community, we appreciate their support for the humanitarian aid for this community, for the Rohingya community. But practical action, there has nothing have done by the any government. Practically, military need to be taken action, sanctions they taken, but not practical action. Can you imagine almost 9 years now, sorry, 10 years or 9 years now, Rohingya fled from the country, one about 800,000. Until today, there is no way to return for them. Until today, there is no such a conversation how they will return and anything. So they want to return home. Unfortunately, they cannot return because there is no safety security. There is another group who are fighting with Burmese military. Now they are also persecuting Rohingya. And there is many Rohingya fled from the country since 2024 again.
I see. Now, could you tell us how the Burmese Rohingya Organization of UK, of which you are the president, what they're doing to address this?
We are talking to the government, UK government, European Union, and US and other government, Western government, including ASEAN countries, and OIC members of a state organization of Islamic cooperation. That is very important thing. Is first, humanitarian aid need to get for them. Secondly, there should be always on the top agenda Rohingya people. They were forced to flee from the country. They are right to return with the rights. With their rights, they need to be returned, and that need to be on the top agenda. You know, pushing Burmese military and including Arkan army, which is non-state actors controlling Rohingya areas right now. They are also persecuting, they are also committing crimes against humanity against Rohingya. So that those are very important through those countries. Humanitarian aid, sanction them and pushing them, persuade them, or pressuring them, and also allowing them to work in Bangladesh and to get their education. That is very important.
So basically, your organization works at the very highest levels to try to support the people both in the country and in the refugee camps.
We're doing our best, but many other Rohingya organizations also working for the rights of the Rohingya, for the to return for the Rohingya. But we are one of the also leading voice for the Rohingya people.
And I believe you and others perhaps have filed a lawsuit in Argentina against the junta government. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Do you want to tell us something about that?
Yeah, that is very important when we talk about genocide survivors, when we talk about Rohingya, how Burmese military killed thousands of Rohingya people in 2017. We need to talk about justice, because one thing is when I I visited to the camp in 2017 when Rohingya brothers and sisters were fleeing from the country to Bangladesh. I met many genocide survivors. I met many Rohingya women who were raped by the Burmese military. Thousands of Rohingya women were raped. More than 390 villages were burned down by the Burmese military in 3 weeks' time. And of course, 800,000 Rohingya fled. Everyone knows about it. But one thing, those people, they told me unitedly, one voice, brother, we want justice. We want justice. Burmese military is very brutal. In front of me, my daughter was raped. In front of me, my mom was killed. And in front of me, someone told me her son was slaughtered. And one husband was slaughtered. His wife was raped by the Burmese military. So these are the most brutal, the most horrific crimes what Burmese military did against our community. So they told me they want justice. And then our organization decided to file a case in Argentina, which is universal jurisdiction. So we can't get any justice inside Burma as Burmese military did that. So we decided to file it. We filed in 2019, and then 2021 they allowed to open investigation. And 2023 we were able to bring 6 women and 1 man to testify at the Argentinian court. The first time in history, Rohingya women were sitting down and, you know, testimony given to the court. We were suffering for so long, but we didn't get a chance to testify, to talk about what we are suffering. This is the first time the court of law, the Rohingya women sitting down and talking to the judge and talking to the prosecutors, what happened to them. And they were very brave women. 40 hours flights they have taken from Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar to Buenos Aires. They told me, they are very strong. They are very happy to sitting down in the courtroom and giving this kind of testimonies what they have done. So because of their testimonies are strong, and those are very strong, and some women when we were watching, there were tears, and sometimes when they testified, the men have to leave from the room, and there are psychosocial support team there, and there are so many things, they are the way how they are facing the emotional, so how these women were brutally, many women were raped and killed, how these women also witness a lot of things. So it's unbelievable story. It's unimaginable. I don't know how I can express. So that story were able to explain at the at the Argentinian court. We really thanks to Argentinian judiciary taking this case, to take to take action against Burmese military to get justice for the Rohingya people. That is very important. So 2025, last year, we got arrest warrant. First time in history, military, including top general Min Aung Hlaing, who is currently, the coup leader, who is currently leading the coup, the Min Aung Hlaing and other top generals, they are included, and we had arrest warrant last year, February. So we are working with Interpol, that Interpol need to implement the arrest warrant. And last 2 weeks ago, our organization brought filed a case against Burmese military again for reparation. When these people return, their villages need to be built up. They have to pay compensation to the genocide survivors. So military is responsible. So we filed against Burmese military just last 2 weeks ago a case, a reparation case again, a reparation case against Burmese military. We did that.
I see. Well, it sounds like your efforts have really
Sorry?
it sounds like your efforts are really making progress. I wish that more nations can step up and
Thank you.
point things
Yes.
out. And I hope that this webinar also helps more people to know about the situation, because we don't hear so much about it in the news these days.
Yes, very important.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's also a suit that was filed by the Gambia, was there not?
Yes, there is 3 cases about Rohingya. One case, Gambia filed against Myanmar, that is a state versus to state cases. And another one is ICC, International Criminal Court, that is deportation case. Another one is our case in Argentina. So
Okay.
the 3 cases are going on. So Gambia one was the merits hearing happened last January. And I believe that the case will be in the favor of Gambia, because the Gambia lawyers have presented very well presentation they have done is very impressive. How Rohingya identity was taken by the Burmese military, how systematically destroying our community with intention. That is very important point, because they want to find out genocide intention on that Gambia case. So I really believe that, the judge will decide that what's happened to Rohingya is genocide, because the Burmese military, they denied at the courtroom all the allegations, even the UN fact-finding missions, Amnesty International report, UN fact-finding missions report, IIM, International Investigative Mechanism for Myanmar's report. So they deny everything. They did not allow anyone to come into to the country in when they investigated. So simply they say this is not true. These reports are fake, and so uh, they are arguments from Burmese from the military side that they are very weak. So Gambia legal council have done a great job. So I believe that in a few months' time, maybe 6 to 9 months, we can get the result, the verdict from the court. That's what I believe. And ICC, International Criminal Court, the prosecutors submitted to release arrest warrant for Ming Aung Hlaing and top military who who were responsible for the Rohingya people who were ordered to kill thousands of Rohingya, to order thousands of Rohingya to rape, to burn down more than 390 villages. So we are still waiting from International Criminal Court.
Thank you. Now, I just want to mention that we first met at the International Religious Freedom Summit in Washington, D.C. earlier this month.
Yes,
And the reason is because this genocide and this persecution of the Rohingya also has a element of religious persecution. Is that not true?
very true, very true. That is because Rohingyas are facing persecution because Rohingyas are one of that the main thing is Rohingyas are Muslim. Uh, Rohingyas are Muslim religious. They are an predominantly Muslim community. One of the things that's why Burmese military is doing it, and so Rohingyas are facing ethnic, religious, and political persecution. If I combine it together, so religiously, of course, Rohingyas are not allowed, you know, to build mosques, and in Rakhine State, Rohingya are not allowed to even renovate their mosques and religious schools. That's very systematic. And if Rohingya, we are facing in Rakhine State now another group, Arakan Army, which is non-state actors who is fighting with Burmese military. They are also doing religious persecution against Rohingya community. Like Rohingyas are, because of being Muslim, they forcing Rohingya to fight against Burmese military. They doing conscripting Rohingya women uh, and taking Rohingya women to fight against Burmese military. So they want to use women shield. So normally Rohingya women they were not like fit, or they never go this kind of fightings, like in the war zone. So Burmese Arkhan Army is doing it, and Burmese military also do the same way. When we need to get married, they are using very serious human rights violation against Rohingya women. So it's sexual harassment and others are there, and um, especially the top line is how Burmese military is doing is very systematic. They want to that Rohingya Muslims are, you know, they don't want to see Rohingya Muslim to see in Burma. They want to wipe out this Rohingya Muslim community. They want to annihilate this community from Rakhine State. And the same way, Arakan Army also want to wipe out this community, Rohingya community, from Rakhine State because they are a Muslim community. That's why.
So the majority community is Buddhist, is that right?
Burma as a whole majority is Buddhist. Muslim community is only like 8 to 10%.
So they persecute anyone who's not Buddhist, including Christians, is that true?
Of course, Rohingya Muslims and Christian, our Shin brothers and sisters, they are facing our Karen brothers and sisters. They are facing persecution. Many shahs were destroyed by Burmese military, and many, um, many Christian, our friends, they told us how targeting Christian community in Shin State, in Kashina State, in Kerala State. So we have many friends from those communities. So they told us how they targeted, especially Christians and Muslims and these Hindus, those communities. Burmese military has been doing it for many decades. Now is very bad, and the Shin community, you know, many Shin uh, Shin leaders were arrested because uh, they are Christian.
Yes, well, religious freedom is something that we at IMAP are very invested in
Yes.
around the world. I would just finally like to ask you about your experience there in the UK. What has been the reception for the Rohingya there, and how are you and your fellow countrymen faring there?
Rohingya are about here, about more than 1,500 Rohingya here. The largest one is in Bradford community, which is, where Rohingya people were brought from the refugee camp in Bangladesh. So in London, there are about more than 100 Rohingya here. So we all are working hard for our community to get justice, to advocate for our community, advocate for the Rohingya brothers and sisters who are facing genocide. And the community here, they treat it very well, and Rohingyas are learning how human rights looks like, how humanity is in UK here. We are witnessing this is very good value. So that's how we are working hard in our community event, and many people are coming and joining, and they supporting our cause.
I see. Well, I'm very grateful to the community there for welcoming you, and I think that you're
Thank you.
to be commended for putting your so much of your efforts to helping your fellow countrymen, and we are very honored to have you on our webinar today, and we're grateful that you, even though it's Ramadan and you're fasting, that you took time to be with us here.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
inviting me.
Well, thank you. I mean, Mr. Tun Khin has painted us an incredible picture of the situation as it is right now, and it's probably it may be something that not many of us have known about before this. So I'm really hoping to bring more visibility and more attention to this issue. I would like now to introduce our second speaker, Wai Wai Nu. Wai Wai is a former political prisoner and the founder and executive director of the Women's Peace Network in Myanmar. Through the Women's Peace Network, Wai Wai works to build equality, peace, and mutual understanding between Myanmar's ethnic communities and to empower and advocate for the rights of marginalized religious minorities, including Rohingya. Through her work on the My Friend campaign, she has been recognized as a champion of prevention by the United Nations Office of the Prevention of Genocide and Responsibility to Protect. Nu briefed the U.S. Congress, administration, and UN Security Council and spoke at the UN General Assembly. Wai Wai is the recipient of, among others, the Religious Freedom Champion Award from the IRF Summit in 2021 and the City of Athens Democracy Award in 2021. She was also named as a young global leader by the World Economic Forum among the 100 World Thinkers Foreign Policy magazine, Next Generation Leader, Time Magazine, and Woman of the Year at the Financial Times. Wai Wai received her law degree from the University of Yangon in Myanmar and her Master of Laws from the University of Berkeley. So we're very happy and proud to have Wai Wai on our program today, and please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Peggy. It's an honor to be here as well, and thank you again for highlighting this issue with your audience.
Wai Wai, can you tell us a little bit about your personal history? As I read, you were a political prisoner.
Yes, of course. My personal history is very long. I will try to summarize as much as possible. So like Tun Khin, I was also born and raised mostly in Rakhine State and in Rangoon, which is the capital city of Burma at that time. In early 90s, the Burmese military introduced discriminatory policies and practices against the Rohingya population that include limiting their ability to travel from one village to another village, one cities to another cities, let alone state outside of the states. And they have also introduced a bunch of measures, including limiting birth rates of the Rohingya women, Rohingya populations, as well as restrictions on the marriage. And there are also many policies that was introduced over right to education, right to access to services, healthcare, access to justice, and so on. And situation has become severe over time. And so my family had to leave the state. And part of the reason is that the discriminatory policies that was introduced against the Rohingya populations at that time. And the second reason was that my father was an elected parliamentarian in 1990 election, and he was targeted by the military junta at that time in Rakhine State. He was once arrested, and then once he was released, and he decided that it would be better off for our family to move to the capital city so that he can continue to be active, and he can raise us by providing education, access to education. So he did the right thing at that time, and I was partly grew up in Rangoon in my late elementary school to middle schools, high schools, and until I was 18, when the military came to our home and chased our family down. They arrested my father first. It was in 2005, March, in the middle of the night. It was scary. And then after 2 months later, they came and knocked our door again at midnight, and they took the entire family away, and they put us in the prison. We were sentenced to 17 years, and my father was sentenced to 47 years. And I spent 7 years in the prison. We were released in 2012 with the presidential amnesty, along with the 23 political prisoners. Long story short, despite growing up in Rakhine State, because my father is a political leader among the Rohingya, I was always aware of the deteriorating conditions in Rakhine State, the persecutions, the severity and scale of the persecutions in Rakhine State. Growing up, I repeatedly hear women being targeted by the military junta, raped in front of their husband, their fathers, their mothers, and people taken away for Potter. People were disappearing. People were arbitrarily arrested, and people were killed. All of this story I was very familiar, and then as a teenager, it hit me when they arrested me because of my identity as a Rohingya and because of my father's identity as a politician, right? So these two factors were key motivator for our arrest. And when it hit me, I started to reflect. I mean, I was still a teenager, but still I was started to reflect the situations very deeply in the prison. And I was able to connect with so many other political prisoners inside, the female political prisoners, and understand how the military dictatorships promoted the Buddhist Burman nationalisms and superiority over other ethnic and religious minorities, in particular against Muslims and Christians, and how these corrupt systems would affect women and populations disproportionately, the women and minority populations disproportionately. And then when I came out of the jail, it was the democratic opening in Burma, right? It was in 2012. And after 7 years, it was like a magic, like a dream I couldn't believe until I was at home. But we had a great hope for the country, to see the actual democracy, to witness the reform, and we were ready to witness the reform in the country, and I had lots of hope. But then that democratic transitions was not for the Rohingya and many other ethnic and religious minorities, like Kachins in the north and Chin and other Karen and other communities, because all this border area, the fightings were ongoing, and then Rohingya were targeted for the severe communal, so-called fabricated communal violence. And the communal violence has grew because it was already orchestrated for the genocidal plan, right, to happen in 2017, 16 and 17. And then in 2016 and 17, they launched this genocidal campaigns against the Rohingya, which resulted in nearly 1 million people to flee from Rakhine, and thousands being killed and hundreds of women being raped and slaughtered, all these brutal mass atrocities that we have actually argued in front of the International Court of Justice last month. So all of this background, having all of this background after I was released from jail, when I didn't see there was no, not just progress, but also the regress when it's come to the persecutions of my people, and the violence erupted, then I noticed there was no voices of women on the space, in this space, and there was increasing hate speech against the Rohingya, hate crimes and violences against the Rohingya. There was no space or avenue for the moderator to come and actually find reconciliations or reconciliatory voices, and obviously there was no space for women. So that's where my story began. That's where I decided to get into the activism. And I mean, I was actually involved in democratic activism, but then when it was specifically on the Rohingya, that's when I started in 2012, right after my release from the jail. So it's a mix of personal and the experiences of my people and the incident that happened at that moment that I felt responsible. I felt a duty to take actions, and I did the right thing. And I am, I have never regretted it, because somebody has to step in. If I don't, who else? Right? If it's not me, who else, right?
Oh, you're a very brave woman to stand up for that and to bring a woman's voice to the conversation. I think that's very important. Can you tell us about the Women's Peace Network and why you founded it and what kind of activities you do?
Yes, like I said, when violence broke out in 2012, and by the time I was released, there was no voices of Rohingya women in particular, and I was ready to respond to the crisis. I was ready to use my privilege, freedom, living in the capital city, and connections. And I was ready to capitalize my connections as a former political prisoner, as someone who is a daughter of a respected political leader among the Burmese democracy movement itself. And I had too many connections among this space, and none of these people were aware of what is happening in Rakhine State against Rohingya. And I was ready to bridge that gap, but I didn't have a platform as a female, particularly young female, right? I didn't have a platform because we had a Rohingya political party, but mostly men, right? There was no female. And then there are other Burmese civil society organizations, and they were not allowing me to speak for the Rohingya, or I didn't have a platform or space in their organization. So it was a necessity for me to form an organization to create space for myself and other Rohingya female, so that we can actually become a voice of what the Rohingya actually means. Because on social media and on media platform, it's the propaganda against the Rohingya are so vile. It's like, everything other than human are the Rohingya. So we have to tell the population, the country, that this is the Rohingya and we are the Rohingya. We are not terrorists. We are not rapists. We are not, whatever they are claiming. We are not cockroaches or ants and all of the animals that they are labeling us, right? So we try to bring human faces in front of the public and try to mitigate the hate and racism at that time, and try to respond to the genocidal policy. But compare with the state-sponsored, state machinery, genocidal machinery, we were very small, but we did our best to try to build solidarity for the Rohingya, to try to build mutual understanding and respect among the younger people. Today, I am proud to say that there are many younger generation are willing to step up for the Rohingya. In 10 years, 5 years ago, in 2017, there was not a lot. And 10 years ago, there was none, right? Now there are a lot more younger generation leaders who are willing to step up for the Rohingya, show solidarity for the Rohingya. Over the past 10 years, we laid the ground. So our organizations focus on building allies and supporters, solidarities among the different communities. So we do that through different programming, including providing space for the young people to be able to come and learn and engage among themselves, at the same time proactively engaging with the stakeholders, including religious leaders, political leaders, media personals, so build allies among them. We've done a lot of these coordinations and alliance building work underground and over the past several years, because at that time, even when you say Rohingya, it's become a crime. So we had to do that. So part of our focus is that building, trust building, mutual understanding, solidarity building. And then the other component of the Women's Peace Network is documenting atrocity crimes and engaging and promoting justice and accountability. So we were documenting crimes that happened since 2012, and we were advocating for the justice and accountability. We advocated for the establishment of fact-finding missions, establishment of IIMM and other justice processes. So we continue to engage with them in terms of on promoting or achieving access to justice for the Rohingya. So we are committed to work beyond international justice processes. We are pushing domestically to create a transitional justice framework. And after we change the systems, so that we have a proper systems for redress and repair. So we are now as the only Rohingya organizations in the Burmese Spring Revolution democracy movement as part being a member of the National Unity Consultative Council, we're trying to push transitional justice framework and agenda to be adopted, which is already adopted. The good news is, so basically justice for us is a more holistic justice. So documentations and justice processes. And other than that, we work with the women and women survivors on providing services to them, empowerment and capacity buildings. And lastly, we do advocacy, like Tun Khin said. We also engage with the many governments across the world, including the US government and the UN agencies, including the UN Security Council. So we do more strategic and consistent advocacy with these stakeholders. It's extremely difficult thing, but I think we need to do what we need to do. So we focus on these 4 areas as Women's Peace Network.
Oh, wow, it's remarkable. It seems like most of your work is taking place inside Myanmar, is that right?
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly.
And then some of your fact finding was what you presented at the trial for the International Criminal Court, is that correct?
So our documentations were presented and shared with the UN entities and investigations, and thus they have formal kind of presentation or communication or collaboration with these actual courts.
Oh, okay. Well, you're our hero.
Thank
for
you.
stepping up and taking responsibility. It's really quite remarkable. And I really thank you for coming on. And we might have a couple questions later on. So for now, I'd like to also introduce a friend of mine and a fellow Coloradan, Teen Lin. Teen Lin is the leader of the Burmese community, the Burmese Rohingya community in Greeley, Colorado. And when he came there, he was the only person, he was the only Rohingya person in the whole state of Colorado, as far as he knows, or I know. But now they have several thousand community members there. And they have built a mosque and a community center. They have classes for the kids. They have a grocery store, a farm, and many other services. And I would just like to invite him to just say a few words about the situation. Of course, there are many Burmese Rohingya in Bangladesh primarily, but also all around the world. And we heard from Tun Khin that in London there's about 100, and in England maybe about, I think he said about 1,500. So I guess Greeley, Colorado has more than the whole of the UK. So I'd like to ask Teen to just talk about why people came to Colorado and what the situation and challenges are that they face since they have arrived here.
Thank you. This is my first time, and thank you. And yes, I came in Greeley, Colorado in 2010. And at the time, I was only by myself. And after I came here, I got connection with other Rohingya people who live in Malaysia and Thailand. And then I invite them actually because I was by myself here. And then they came, they joined with me, and we are 7 family. At the time, I was a single. And then one day, we gathered together on Sunday. They said, we didn't have freedom to worship in our mosque in Rakhine State. And they said, we need to rent a room to teach our kids our culture and Arabic. And we rent a room and we start teaching Arabic and our culture. And from the 7 family, they connect each other from Thailand Bangladesh, Malaysia, Indonesia, to other family. And finally, now we have over 2,000 people in Giri. So 3 years ago, we raised our money from our own community. We bought a building for our community center, our own community center, for our own mosque. We have the class, we have our culture class. We are growing, but again, to have our own mosque, own community, it cannot be same as our original land, to have in our original land. So I still here, we have everything, almost everything here, but we are not happy as much as when we were in our original land. So I'm still hearing people say one day maybe we got our freedom in Rakhine State, maybe I stop genociding on our Rohingya people. Let me tell you one thing. I think most of our Rohingya people who have the Burmese name, they might have one or two Muslim name. For example, I have two names. So why we have two different names? Sometimes in our school, majority of Buddhism, they even don't like to call in our Muslim name. See? So yeah, so we have our people still said maybe one day we go back when genocide stopped on our Rohingya people.
Thank you, Tien. I see both you and Wai Wai and the Tun, you all love your native country. I see that.
Yeah.
And I want to read something that one of our guests has written here in the chat. He says, coming from Bangladesh, I very much connect emotionally and practically with the severe injustice that Rohingyas have been facing for so many years, praying that they receive justice, peace, recognition, and rehabilitation one day.
Yeah.
So I think that is also the prayer of all of us that this genocide will end and these people will be brought to justice and that you will be able to return once more to the land that you love. And so, well, I guess Tien left. He's running a store at the same time. Oh, okay. I'm going to bring Wai Wai up. Could we bring Wai Wai on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I really want to thank all of you for sharing from the heart about the situation. And I hope that this information will be spread very widely. We don't have much time, but I have one question from the audience that I would like to address to Wai Wai. Was there a time when the different groups lived side by side with no issues? And what changed?
So Rohingya are the indigenous people of Rakhine State or Arakan. So the genocide happened after the independence, or genocide started to brew after the independence in 1948. Before 1948, Rohingya and Rakhine Buddhist majority population in Rakhine State lived side by side in peace for generation, for centuries. And there were a period in 14th century and 15th century, it's called the Mrau dynasty. During the Mrau dynasty, Rohingya and Rohingya Muslims and the Rakhine Buddhists lived peacefully in a cosmopolitan society. And Rohingya were part of the governance, kingdoms, and the king themselves actually have the Muslim title for in addition to their title. So for 9th kingdom in a row, they have the title of Muslim. Means the Rohingya, precisely the Muslim populations in Rakhine and Buddhists were living peacefully together. And that peace were distracted after the British colony. British brought a divide and rule tactic. And that's where the division has started. And then in 1942, there was a massacre in Rakhine State where developed from the communal violence between the Rakhine Buddhists and Rohingya. So nearly 100,000 Rohingya were killed, where about 20,000 Rakhine were also killed. And that's where the Rakhine State become a more segregated, the north becoming more like Rohingya, and the south is more Buddhist Rakhine. And since the independence, the Burmese Buddhist military has instilled the idea of, like I said, Buddhist supremacy and hate towards the ethnic and religious minorities. That's when the prejudices and hate has grew, that become a pretext for the genocidal activities in 2016 and 17. So yes, there was time that Rohingya and Rakhine population lived together in harmony, in peace for centuries and centuries. And it's still possible with the right governance, with the right leaderships, with the right systems, with justice and fairness and rule of law. As long as we are able to establish justice and fair, rule of law and fairness, equality, then we will have a chance to live in peace and equality in Rakhine State. And that's what the Rohingya are, in fact, asking for and fighting for: equality, justice, and peace.
Well, thank you very much. That about sums it up. And I hope everyone who's on the call, if you've been moved by anything that's been said, that you will share this information with others. And it will be posted up on Facebook, on the UPF Facebook page, and also on YouTube. So it's easy to share with your acquaintances and colleagues. In closing, I would like to invite our UPF Secretary General for North America is on the call with us. I'd like to see if he would like to make a remark to close us out. Mr. Larry Moffett.
Hi, thank you very much, Peggy, and thank you to our guests. I wanted to make sure that I caught this broadcast. I am deeply moved by the struggle of people to gain their freedom of expression, especially religious expression. So I am humbled by your sacrifice and by your tenacity, the tenacity of all of you and your perseverance. I am deeply moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moffett. And thank you to all